This is a Bendix G-15, a full-fledged vacuum tube computer from 1956, and it is the oldest running digital computer in North America. Now, normally when I do these introductions, I'm standing up because I'm really excited to get hands-on with the machine and work on something that's been giving us trouble, but today I'm sitting down because it's a bit of an emotional one, because today it's time to say goodbye to this machine. It's time for it to go home. This Bendix G-15 is on loan from System Source Museum, which is one of the best computer history museums in the world. And Bob is an absolute legend. He sent this machine down here so we could get it up and running, and it is fully functional. We've played Doom on it. We've run high-level programming languages on it. We've done all sorts of amazing things with it, and it's time for it to go back up to System Source to go on display so you can get hands-on with this machine in person at the museum. So it's like 2 years this thing has been a mainstay in this room, and I'm kind of sad to see it go, but it's going on the truck in less than 2 hours. So thank you so much for everything, but I am going to be flying up to System Source to get this thing plugged in and fully operational up there. So it should be a pretty exciting one today.
My name's Reece. I'm a volunteer at System Source Computer Museum. This is the Control Data CDC 160A mini computer. It's the second computer that Control Data released. It was designed by Seymour Cray, who's known for large computers. It's actually an outgrowth of the 1604 large computer using the same design modules. And he cut down the design and formed this little 12-bit computer. This machine runs at 6.8 microsecond cycle, I believe it is from memory. It's got 4K of real core memory, 12-bit wide. It's not exactly what you would call a fast computer. This machine was actually used for scientific computing at the time. It doesn't have a really large word, so that it can't really be used for high precision type stuff like Cray is known for, but it was useful for that type of thing. It could also be used for business calculations. These displays have basically their rear projection displays, where there's a series of bulbs behind film, and when you turn on the bulb, it projects that character on the screen. So if you press a button to change the display, what it's actually doing is changing which light bulb is behind what piece of film, so it gets projected on basically a rear projection screen. It's kind of a nice display. It can display more than just characters. It can display glyphs and different colors as well. We wanted to demo something interactive with this at VCF West this year. So we developed a tic-tac-toe program. In this case, we've already loaded the program. It's resident in core, so what we do is just clear it out and tell it to run. Although the display here obviously could have run much faster, this was intended to be used with a mechanical typewriter, and it could only type at 10 characters a second. So that's the rate the characters come out. And so setting up the tic-tac-toe game, draw our board, ask you for a turn. What it's actually doing is it's running the Minimax algorithm. So this is a 1961 computer running an AI algorithm. It takes a few seconds, like 15 seconds, to make its first move calculation.
And this is the real reason why we're here at System Source. It's my baby girl. It's my Bendix G-15. I missed it so much. But the whole plan from day one was to get this thing fully functional and then installed here at System Source Museum in this very position. Well, it's in this position, but it's not up and running and functional yet, because the rodeo ride from Texas all the way up here to Maryland is, there's a lot of bad roads between there and here. So I assembled my dream team of friends to work on this machine and get it up and going. We got Lloyd, who knows probably more about the hardware of the G-15 than anybody alive today. And we have my buddy John here, who knows more about electromechanical wizardry than also anybody alive today. So between these two, we can get this machine fully up and running. And we do have a bit of work ahead of us. All of the packs shook loose on the drive, so they all got to be reseated. And more worryingly, the drive motors for the paper tape here almost vibrated completely loose. So they could have been bouncing around, running into all sorts of other things and breaking stuff. So there could be some broken stuff going on here, but hopefully it all comes up very smoothly. But there's only one way to find out, and that's to get into it. We need to get access to the insides to double check everything. So I gave John the honors of moving a 1,000-pound machine around. First thing I want to do is clean up this oil that is seeping out the front. This is not a great sign, but maybe it'll be an easy fix. Let's start with the simplest idea, just trying to screw it back in. And yeah, that's not going well. Something internal has come loose. We're gonna have to pull the entire phototape reader off. I'll unplug the Canon connector. Then there are 4 screws that come up from the bottom through the rails. And this job is way easier with 2 people, because once all 4 screws are loose, the reader is completely free. It's nice to have John here to keep it from falling on my head. Now that it's on the table, the lower motor is pretty much completely loose. The upper motor was only held in with a few threads. What seems to have happened is the insane vibrations of the truck caused the coupling nuts to come completely off, and even worse, caused the motor studs to back out, which resulted in oil seeping out and the motor causing a right mess. Thankfully, by the grace of the computer gods, nothing else seems to have been hurt by these things flopping about. I just need to tighten all 4 studs up on both motors, cinch the coupling nuts down nice and tight, and then reinstall the motors back in place. But we're not out of the woods yet. On the right-hand side door, there's one diode pack that is just missing. No clue how this happened.
Bob has a couple of spare diode packs, thankfully, but the correct one that we need has a broken 110k ohm resistor on it. It's completely snapped through, so it needs to be replaced. 110k is a weird value though, so we're actually going to steal a 110k from a different spare diode card. We're stealing from Peter to pay Paul, so to speak. But this should get us going today, which is top priority. After desoldering the broken one, I'll solder down the replacement resistor, and then we just need to slot the card back in. At this point, visually at least, it looks like we're good to flip the AC switch. Sure enough, the drum spins up freely, all the cooling fans kick off, and everything is looking good until we looked at the typewriter, that is. The motor in the typewriter seems completely locked up and nothing is happening. That's not good. We'll power down the machine and then flip the typewriter onto its back so we can get the bottom off and look inside. And look at that. The typewriter is trying to do a carriage return and a tab at the same time. No wonder it's locked up. It's trying to force the platen left and right at the same time. John jumped right into work pouring over all the mechanical bits. Turns out there was a pawl that had jiggled into the wrong position, and pushing on the right thing at the right time freed everything up, and the typewriter was now only doing one thing at a time.
All right, Lloyd, flip the switch for round 2. Okay, there it goes. All right, typewriter's back alive. All right, DC's coming up. All right, we got our photo tape reader going off. That's good.
The program we had loaded up was Intercom 1000, probably the most complex program we have for the G-15. If it can successfully run Intercom, it's 99.9% functional, and after a little tweaking on the typewriter, I was able to get a test program that adds 2 numbers together typed in and successfully executing. The G-15 is alive! Let's load up the Mandelbrot program to test out the typewriter and flex some of those math circuits inside. We also gave the old girl a good wipe down, installed all the panels, and got her back into place. The typewriter finally has a desk worthy of that platen to sit on, and the entire thing looks absolutely stunning. We all just sat back and marveled as the machine crunched numbers and printed out beautiful patterns on the typewriter. I mean, mostly printed out. The typewriter fought us for pretty much the entire rest of the day, but with John and Lloyd squashing any bugs or faults that cropped up, the Bendix G-15 is happily churning away and proudly on display.
Here we are at the end of the day, and what an epic day it's been. The G-15 has been performing admirably. The G-15 typewriter has been fighting us quite a lot. John worked on it most of the afternoon, and we got it going pretty well, pretty much as good as it was going in Texas. We still have a couple of letters that are weak, but you can see here, it printed out the Mandelbrot pattern, and it looks absolutely stunning. Ultimately, what this thing is going to need is it's going to need the friction roller to be resurfaced or replaced or something. And John has a couple of ideas about how to tackle that, so he may very well be back up here to tinker with this typewriter a little more and essentially get this thing running at 100%. So there you go. The oldest running digital computer in America is right here at System Source Museum in Maryland on display. And we're gonna have an open house where I fly back up with all my buddies and we try to run as much software on this as possible. We're gonna run the Mandelbrot, we're gonna calculate Fibonacci, we're gonna run the Doom program. It's gonna be really epic. And I hope as many of y'all watching as possible can make it out to that event, but we don't actually know what day that open house is going to happen on. I'm still talking with Bob and we're trying to get schedules to line, and as soon as we hammer out a date, I'm going to make an announcement right here on this channel so that way you guys know what day it is. But also you can check System Source's website. Any updates on when that open house is going to happen will be up on their website as soon as we know. However, there is one big burning question left to answer, and that is that in order for this G-15 to be here in Maryland, that means that back in Texas, there's a G-15 sized hole in my room. So what's gonna go there? Well, if we rewind all the way back to when the truck was down here in Texas, that truck did not show up empty. Inside was another Bendix G-15 that Bob sent down for more work. So we unloaded it. We have it sitting here in the garage, ready to go into that room.
But the reason it's sitting here in the garage and not already in the room is because it has caster problems. The front right caster is missing completely. The left rear caster, I'm pretty sure, is folded up over onto itself. And the remaining two are starting to come apart. So it's kind of a hot mess under there. But we know how to do casters. We did that on the previous one. Unfortunately, there's a lot more with this machine that we don't know how to do. So there's going to be a whole lot of really new, interesting journeys that we're going to have to take with this G-15. Notably, we're missing the panels for the front and the sides. So we're going to have to build some replicas to fill out those spots. And then we're going to have to color match those. But I'm not too worried about that color matching being 100% perfect because I think the entire machine needs a repaint. There's dings and nicks and scratches all over the thing, but that's not what really worries me. It's right up here on top. Something was sitting on top of this machine decades and decades ago, and whatever that was rubbed through the paint in 4 places, exposing the metal underneath and causing it to rust. And that rust is almost through the metal. So we need to strip that panel back, remove all of the rust, seal it, and then repaint it with new paint. So that way we can save that metal. And if we're going to be repainting that, we might as well repaint the entire machine and make it look brand new. But that is going to be a challenge because I can't tear the entire thing all the way down like you would if you were doing a proper repaint. And the paint on this thing is like a special kind of crinkle paint. So we have a massive hurdle to figure out how to do repainting on this machine. That's going to be difficult, but I think kind of fun. This machine is also an alphanumeric machine, which means that we need a different typewriter and we need an additional box to go between this machine and the typewriter. Thankfully, I have both of those already, but the box has like 40 relays in it, and I know that that's gonna just absolutely whoop me up and down trying to get up and going. But once we do, that opens up an entirely new library of software that we can run on this machine. But in order to run that software, there's one more massive problem that we got to tackle. And actually, that problem is the single thing that I'm the most excited about on this machine. And that is that the rotating drum memory in this is heavily crashed. We have to figure out some way to pull that drum out, completely strip it, and recoat it with new magnetic material, then write down a new clock track and a new timing track and get it all installed back in the machine before this thing has even a prayer of working. I realize that sounds negative, but I'm like crazy excited about this because this is an opportunity to do some like really heavy duty science and figure something out that nobody's done in 50 or 60 years. I really want to pull that drum out and maybe scrape off some of the magnetic material and get it into a spectrometer, maybe something like a Bowmim DA3. I think I know somebody who has one of those, and try to figure out what the magnetic material is composed of. And then I also want to get an X-ray fluorescence spectrometer onto the drum itself because we think that drum is made of titanium. But titanium in the 1950s was incredibly rare. So it seems impossible for it to be made of titanium, but there's no eddy currents. The color of it is right in line with titanium. The specific density of it is right in line with titanium. So the best way to put that debate to rest is to check it with an XRF spectrometer and get the answer for sure. And then we're going to spend probably a year, maybe 2, trying to figure out the best way to recoat this drum. I'm going to start with maybe an HVLP spray gun and spray it on and see what kind of run out we can get with that. If that doesn't work, maybe we can do the drag method, or who knows, maybe there's something else out there that we haven't thought of yet. It's going to be a wild journey, and oh man, I'm so excited for it. Bob, thank you so much for sitting this G-15 down. I can't wait to get into it. So the question now is, when am I going to get into it? Well, there's a couple of projects that I want to finish up first. So let's talk about video rotation for a short second. I put out about 4 videos a month, 1 a week, and I try to go through a very specific rotation. I tried to do a video on a machine that's pre-1970. That's going to be like the G-15, the Data 620, LGB21, something like that. Then I tried to put out a video that's on a machine between 1970 and 1984. It's going to be like PDP-11, Centurion, machines in that era. Then I want to do a science video, something like the BOMIM spectrometer, or maybe I can get into microscopy. Someday I would love to get my hands on a scanning electron microscope. And finally, homebrew projects. Right now we're doing the TMS 9900 homebrew, but as soon as that's done, we're going to get into UE2, the new vacuum tube homebrew that I want to build. So in that rotation, this G15 is going to fall right on that pre-1970 week, but that is currently being filled up with the Data 620, and I would also like to do the LGB21. So I think what we're going to do is we're going to go hard on the Data 620, get it up and running, and then we're going to alternate between the LGB21 and the G15. So I'm super excited to have another G15 down here. This is going to be a ton of fun working on, and I think we can learn an absolute massive amount. So I want to thank you all so much for hanging out with me today, and I hope to see you in the next one.